All right, troops, welcome to the War Room. My name is Judge Owen for tonight because we are going to be looking at the 1995 Judge Dredd starring Sylvester Stallone versus the 2012 Dredd starring Karl Urban. So I'm really looking forward to this one because there's a lot to discuss about both movies. So without further ado, I'm just going to bring in the squad. So we're bringing Judge J-Man.
Hey, how's it going?
Good, how are you?
Good, thanks.
All right, and then we got Judge Chase. All right.
I am the law.
You're not the law. I'm the law.
I am the law.
It's
like-
wrong.
We should be allowed to play Anthrax right now. We need the I Am the Law song playing
Yeah.
this entire stream. Just the whole time.
Yeah, they use the comic cover for one of their albums, right? Or no? Yeah, they did.
Yeah.
I thought, yeah, I remember that.
Remember that? Yeah, some guy called G-Man's left a comment there.
That's me.
I know that guy.
I've been putting the link. I put the links up so we can highlight them when we need to, and then that way it stays in the chat once it gets processed to YouTube, and it'll stay there as part of the thing, so then that people can go to the website.
I've added it as well. I've got
Perfect.
the links to everybody on the YouTube and then on the website as well. So, so everybody remember to subscribe to all of us, to G-Man, to Charlie and his giving back my action movies and horror movies and whatever else.
I
give
have
me
many.
back whatever.
Yeah.
Give me back my porno
Just
movies.
give it all back to me.
Yeah.
So, so we're going to talk about Judge Dredd versus Dredd. But just before we were going online, we were talking about some of the stuff which we'd watched recently. And I always like to sort of shoot the shit a bit before we go into the main things. So I finally watched Terrifier 2 the other day, G-Man, and I thought it was pretty awesome. I think when people, vomiting and throwing up, or that's the same thing, or like fainting or whatever in theaters, I'm like, are you a pussy? Have you never watched a horror movie before? I'm like, what's wrong with you? Some quality gore in it, great practical effects. I'm glad I wasn't eating when watching it, particularly the post-credit scene. It's definitely gross. But yeah, I thought it was good. I watched Smile. So I'm watching horror movies rather than action movies these days. But so I watched Smile, which I'd heard bad things about, but I actually thought it was okay. It was kind of like practically the same movie as It Follows. Did you ever see that? Remember from a couple of years ago? No, it was kind of similar to that, but it was quite sort of unsettling in parts. But once you've seen it once, it's not something you'd watch again. And then anyone who's been to the website today, theactionelite.com, I posted my review for the Red Sonja 4K, which I got in the UK a few weeks ago, and then I watched it last night. And the film still isn't great. I'm not going to pretend this is a great movie.
Hey, can I be?
Yeah, maybe, but you might be surprised. But yeah, so the 4K kept stopping and starting all the way through it, and then there's this weird message before it saying, due to historical depictions or something, some people may be offended, and I'm like, it's a fantasy movie. What's there to be offended about? I'm offended. Like,
I'm offended.
Why?
Hands up if you're offended. I don't care what it is. I'm offended.
It's a strong woman lead. What's there to be offended about?
Being offended is not a skill.
There goes that part on my resume.
Damn, scratch that out.
I got to update my LinkedIn now. Thanks, I appreciate that.
You have been warned. So anybody else watch anything cool this week?
Well, Could Not Be Reached is pushing me to watch Neon Maniacs. I've never seen that. So
that's a good movie.
Yeah, I'm gonna see that. It's Doctor Who Day, so I've been doing Doctor Who pretty much all week. Even though today is just Doctor Who Day. 59 years of Doctor Who. So I did a big Doctor Who thing. I rewatched Dredd, or I rewatched Judge Dredd, even though I've seen it 400 times. I actually watched half it. I'm like, you know what? I remember the whole movie. I don't need to watch it. What else did I think, I've been going through some of the horror movies, and we've been doing the space opera tournament, so I've been going through those. That's pretty much it. I don't think if I remember anything, I'll mention it, but I think it's just been some of the horror movies that we've talked about, Terrifier 2, and I had to rewatch Terrifier 1, and then I had to watch All Hallows Eve, so I watched all three Art the Clown movies, so yeah.
It's funny, I saw that on Twitter today. Is Art their dad?
Yeah, I don't think so.
That's what I thought when I was watching, and I was like, that surely has to be the twist in the third one if they do it, which they probably will.
They are going to do the third one, yeah. Well, I mean, I was kind of hoping that there was no reason for it. I like that. I like when there's perceived plot, but there isn't any plot. That's funny to me. It's like Saw 4, where it's like Jigsaw's dead and they're doing an autopsy. I'm like, how can this movie be happening if they're doing an autopsy on the killer? And then it's like he swallowed a tape and it's like, it's not over. I was like, yeah, this is so great. It's like it's so genius. It's just so nonsensical. Nightmare 4, the dog, which name is Jason, it pees fire and Freddy's back. I'm like, this is the best thing ever. They didn't even bother to come up with anything somewhat plausible, because who cares?
It doesn't matter. It's nonsense.
Right, I don't care who art
it works. Just do it. Yeah.
So.
But speaking of which, my shirt today.
Oh, awesome.
Nice.
That's part 4. The cover of part 4, final chapter. The final chapter. That was part 4.
Yeah.
And Dredd.
Got my Dredd shirt on today.
I don't have
this is a wrestler.
I had a friend of mine make this. They have like graphics and t-shirt company, and he made me a Judge Dredd shirt. I was like, hell yeah, because you're right, it's hard to find unless you like order a $30 shirt.
Yeah.
So I was like,
who has that kind of money these days?
I don't have that kind of money, especially going into the holidays.
Yeah. So what's up with give me back my action movies this week?
Well, this week we actually just released Universal Soldier, so that episode is out and live now. So that was one of the more recent action movies I watched again, and freaking love it.
It's so good.
Never not loved that movie. I actually watched I actually watched The Birds the other day and realized I had never seen it all the way through.
I have it, but I've never seen it. Yeah, I gotta watch it. That's whenever I was younger, I never liked Alfred Hitchcock films. I always found them boring. So I need to watch them now as an adult, and I understand them more.
That changed it a lot for me, because as a kid, I had only ever seen it from her in the phone booth when the big attack happens and on. I had never seen the beginning. As an adult, I could appreciate it because it is talky. There is a lot of dialogue, but it was enjoyable. So we watched that because it was for the monster side of our podcasts that they're doing their Thanksgiving thing, the Battle of the Birds. So obviously we watched The Birds, but I don't know. I watched Judge Dredd, and I just randomly let Tubi pick shit for me anymore. So it's just like pick something.
God bless Tubi.
I don't know where my life has been without it, man. It is fantastic.
Oh, it is.
And the wife watching murder drama stuff whenever she'll watch that, and I'll just scroll my phone. It's like, okay, yep, that dudes are bad. Okay, that's fine. Yep, she got away with it. That's cool.
Yeah.
You should have you guys seen Foreign Correspondent? That's Alfred Hitchcock. I've
only ever seen Psycho, which is awesome, obviously. I've seen The Man Who Knew Too Much.
Yep.
And the remake of it, my great uncle was in, Noel Willman.
Awesome.
He's one of the main guys in that. So
I've seen Psycho, and then the one I never can remember the name of it, but it's basically the guy that's in the wheelchair watching
Rear Window. Yeah, Rear Window.
That's what it is.
I've seen Rope as well.
Yeah. Rope is I love that movie.
Yeah, I haven't seen it in years.
Rear Window. Right before I came on this stream, I was watching How to Play Rear Window, the board game. That I just watched. You can see it on my. It's still on my iPad. I just watched How to Play Rear Window. It's weird that you mentioned that. That's a weird coincidence.
That's been the weird stuff that's been happening lately with these coincidences about things. I think it was me and Sean both watched the exact same A-Team episode. One day, and we're like, seriously, you watched it too? He's like, yeah, just the other day. I was like, same.
Right.
I was like, I don't know. Tubi again. Tubi's got us mind controlled. That's what it is.
Yeah, Tubi is the best. All right, well, without further ado,
judgment time.
Let's do it. So, well, I'll start off, and we'll talk about obviously the 1995 Judge Dredd starring Sylvester Stallone. Now, I watched both movies straight after each other on Sunday. I watched Judge Dredd followed by Dredd. I gotta say, I think I was always far too hard on the 1995 film. Whenever I watched it this time, I have never enjoyed it more than I did this week when I watched it. I don't know why. Rob Schneider didn't annoy me. I think, like I said before, after I met him, he was such a nice guy, and I was like, I don't find him annoying in movies anymore. I was like, he's all right. And that was the thing. It just changes. So he didn't bother me at all. I loved the ABC robot thing, the droid thing, which Rico uses, which is awesome. I love the whole idea of like the long walk, and I think that's really cool. And there's some interesting visuals. A lot of special effects don't hold up, and even back then weren't great. Like the whole bike chase through the city at the end is a bit crap looking, but even then I still kind of liked it. My favorite thing about it is Alan Silvestri's score. I love the music is fantastic. Really just swelling, heroic music. It's awesome. I think every fan can agree the biggest flaw with the movie is the fact that Stallone barely wears the helmet throughout. So then the way I see it is that it's a fun Sylvester Stallone action movie, but it's not really a Judge Dredd movie, and that's sort of the way I see it. I think I still enjoy it. It doesn't take itself seriously, much lighter tone. There's some funny one-liners. I love his, I knew you were going to say that, which he says throughout. And, court's adjourned, which I say all the time.
Yeah,
Anytime I want to end a conversation, you have to say that.
Yep.
I really like the 1995 version more than I used to. It's cheesy fun, yeah, sure, but it's just a good time. I love the scene, which for some reason I didn't like whenever I was younger. And I was like, was I just a dick when I was younger? Probably. But I love the scene whenever the ship crashes and it's what's the family called? The
angel gang.
The angel family, yeah. And you got him with like the robotic arm and all that makeup is awesome.
Oh,
that
God,
is so cool.
good.
And I never realized that was Ewan Bremner until recently. Ewan Bremner is one of the guys, and he is from Trainspotting. He's a Scottish actor. He was Spud in Trainspotting for all you movie fans.
The dad is Herschel from Walking Dead.
Yes, so he is. Yeah. I knew he was familiar.
Pa Angel.
Oh, yeah.
I want his ears.
So yeah, like I said, is it a perfect movie? No, but it's still a fun time. It's very lighthearted, doesn't take itself seriously. There's nothing offensive about it. I definitely don't dislike it the way I used to. So I still think it has that rewatchability. It's just a good time. So that's my thoughts on it. So over to you, Jay.
So this movie's been up and down for me, but when it's been down, it's never been disliked. I saw it in the theater opening day. I did not know it was a comic book. When the credits started, I'm like, oh, this is a comic book. I'm like, well, this is just the best movie ever. And I watched it. I walked out of the theater and I loved it. It's the first CD I ever bought. I'm like, I need this soundtrack. That's what I also learned, that the score and the soundtrack are not the same.
Mm-hmm.
Now the soundtrack did have Rob Zombie, Devilman, and all that on there, so that was good. But it had some good tracks as metal tracks, but it wasn't the score, which is what I really wanted, and it wasn't the special trailer music that they created for the Judge Dredd trailer, which they later used in the Phantom trailer. But I thought the movie was amazing when I saw it as a kid. I did not know about I knew about Judge Dredd, but not really. So I didn't really know it was a comic or anything. I think I had heard the name, but I didn't really know anything. Then I was like, ooh, I got to get some of these comics. And then as I start to get into more of the Dredd character, I start to realize like, oh, this movie kind of missed a lot of points. Number one was the helmet removal, but I was like, well, it's still kind of fun. And it got me into Judge Dredd. So I couldn't shit talk it too much because that was my intro to it. So that was in a lower point. Diane Lane is awesome in it.
Oh yeah.
And there's no Anderson, which is like, but anyways, it went back up because we're living in a time where really not even living it. It's always been this way. Movies and comics have never been really the exact same. Maybe the first Ninja Turtles movie was the comic, like the first Turtles movie and the original Eastman Laird comics, not the not the kind of the fun, cartoon.
Not the Fox cartoon, but that's actually, it's reverse of what you're saying. Like normally we're like, that's not the comic, but that's what hurt Ninja Turtles really was. This isn't the cartoon.
Right. It was the comic, not the cartoon.
So it's like totally flipped on its ear. Like, what will make you people happy? Come on, just tell me.
I love that movie. I saw it 3 times in the theater.
I love Ninja Turtles.
I loved it.
We should do a streaming of Ninja Turtles at some point.
We should.
It's action.
It's action.
It is.
It doesn't matter. It's rated PG. There's cussing. We're good.
Yep.
Let's do it.
And then Crush Shredder. So when I read the comics, it started to remind me of a lot of the comic book movies of the 90s, like even like Dick Tracy and stuff, where they're like, oh, we're just going to make one movie because Rico the ABC robots, even like Block Wars, like these could have been set, like him being accused of murder. Like this is like so many different comic book plot lines shoved into one. It's like Dick Tracy. He fought every villain he's ever fought in one movie, and you're like, oh yeah, man, the Brow, he's cool. Oh, the Brow's dead. What the heck? It's like, oh, Rodin. Oh yeah, he was a cool character. Oh, he's dead. Oh, okay. So ABC robots, and you're like, wow, and you're like, oh, but that's it. It's just there as an action. The Angel family, like it's like all of these things were more like developed in the comics, and they were all shoved into one movie. So it was almost like this was the first and last Dredd movie they were ever gonna make. Mm-hmm. That's in my low point where I'm like, oh, this is like not, but I still liked it. And then it's gone back up to now being high because no comic book movie is ever the comics. So now I'm judging the movie as a Stallone action movie. There's a lot of great effects. I do like the story. It's a bit muddled, it's a bit muddy, but I do still kind of like it. So I'm on a high on it. I liked it. I was one of the few people that did fight for it when everyone was like, oh no, it sucks. So I like it.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, I think one of the points I wanted to say was that, it definitely feels rushed. And like it was initially supposed to be rated R, and then I think the studio made them cut a lot down because there's supposed to be a sequence at the end where all the clones come out, and then he starts fighting all of the clones at the end. There's going to be this bigger action scene, because I always find that the ending just happens far too quickly, and then he has to fight with Rico, and then that's it, and then it's over, and you're like, oh, that's it. And there's just not much to it, and I think that there's just definitely too much crammed into the one movie. Like you said, you could have had either the Angel family or Rico or the ABC Robot, any of them as the villains, if it had been done a bit better. But I think this is, once again, studio interference is probably the real villain here. So, Charlie?
Yeah, I'll stay on that little track you're doing before I go back into why I like it. The other interference this movie had was Stallone. This movie was designed to be darker, to be rated R, to do all this other stuff, and Stallone went, nope, it needs to be a comedy action. We need to up the comedy, the jokes, the one-liners, and make it light and PG-13. Studio was like, cool, let's do that. It's Stallone doing it, and ultimately it hurt it. As far as us, now let's go to young Charlie watching this movie. I had one or two Judge Dredd comics growing up. I have the comic they show in Hackers when the kid gets raided on. He's up in his top bunk reading a comic. I have that exact comic book. Like I remember watching Hackers going, I have that, and ran to my room and got it and showed Dad. So I've had a Judge Dredd, but in two comics, you don't really know the character. And then the movie came out. We got it on VHS. My dad and I loved this movie. Stallone is probably my favorite action guy, period. I mean, he is top of my Mount Rushmore just because of his range, just because of everything he's done or tried. I always enjoyed it. And then he is Judge Dredd to me. His face looks like it. When he's got the helmet on, he looks like it. He talks like it. And I just love it. And I've never had a low with this movie, even after I started reading the comics, which weren't readily available. You either had to ask for them to be brought in. This I have back here is, I don't know, probably a little over 4 feet tall. You can't see the bottom of it. My comic book provider, Rob, gave me this envelope that has Mega City 1 badge on the front of it. It looks like an official envelope. You open it up, and here's everything to sell Judge Dredd comics, where they're trying to get you to carry it.
Right.
There was a comic in it from the newsstand, everything. There was even, here it is.
Yeah, it's like a press release or something.
Yeah,
right?
It's like it's the press release, and like it even has.
Yep, that's awesome.
The Batman Judge Dredd.
Yep.
Oh,
crossover.
Which one? This?
That's the omnibus of what this one is. So he's like, he never opened it. He goes, "You're a big Judge Dredd fan." This was like 5 years ago. He hands it to me. And so I was like, "You never even put it out?" He goes, no one was really asking for it. So I put it back in the rest of the shit we got in here. He goes, and I found it, and here it is. Like literally, if he gets a Judge Dredd book, he puts it in a box for me to look through to see if I even have it yet. Any of the old stuff. But this movie, man, I have loved it since day one. It's everything that I love about action movies. It's fast paced. There's always something happening. Diane Lane is gorgeous in this as Hershey. Stallone is a badass. And when you didn't know he wasn't supposed to take the helmet off in the comics, never bothered me. Like, I didn't care. I still don't really care because I have a connection more to the movie than the comic. Now I have a connection to the comic, but it never bothered me about the movie because I had the gun, I had the motorcycle, I had the ABC robot, which is fucking iconic.
It is awesome.
I love that thing. And the fact that they were like, how do we get this robot in this movie? And it works for me. It's like, oh yeah, it's in a pawn shop that this dude just has randomly laying around. And Armand Hassan, until you watch this movie, you don't realize how close those two look. Like, really, in their facial features, in the way they talk, everything. There's not a lot of acting where they're trying to copy their own mannerisms. No, they really look like they are like brothers. And, you know, I always bought that. Rob Schneider was everywhere when I was a kid. You know, every Adam Sandler movie had Rob Schneider running around. Then Rob Schneider had this big thing. So I was never annoyed by him. I enjoyed it. And I'm sitting here watching it again today. And I'm now looking at the backgrounds. This was as close to the comics as they could get. Yeah. The Mega City one
set was great. Yeah.
The setting is phenomenal. Yeah, okay. Some of the graphics for the motorcycle chase is a little, you know, janky here and there, but the chase itself is fantastic. You know, it's like the indoor speeder bike on acid, you know, and so all this stuff just keeps adding to it and adding to it. You know, there's a lot of scenes that remind me of like Fifth Element, you know, the way they set that future versus this future. And then we go to the Cursed Earth. Right. Like you said, how did they squeeze all this into a movie, but they still made it work? And this one is so like world building. It's like, we're going to show you a little bit of the Hall of Justice is amazing looking. The giant eagle looking structure when they go into it. The Angel Gang is probably my favorite segment in the movie, you know, from Mean and, you know, the Junior and Paw. I love all of that and how they talk to each other. It's just oozes action movie, one-liners, you know, illegal use of city electricity, death, and stabs him in the back with the electrical line. Max von Sydow is freaking fantastic in this movie as Chief Justice. There's just, I can't ever bash this movie. And when I hear people go, that's a horrible movie, I just want to slap them. I'm like, no, it's not a horrible movie. It has failures, there's flaws, but it's not horrible. They were actually fairly, you know, true to the source material. There's Judge Dredd comics in the front before Marvel ever did that shit with the comic book flying back and forth. This is all like the comic covers and stuff popping up all at the beginning before the Judge Dredd sign for the title intro.
Isn't the title even voiced over by James Earl Jones?
James Earl Jones does the voiceover for this. There's just, it just has everything. An 80s fan, an action fan, 90s, the whole 9 yards. If you're a fan of this genre, you're watching this channel, there's no reason you shouldn't at least find some enjoyment with Stallone's Judge Dredd. And that's another thing. It's called, no one who calls it Judge Dredd. It's Stallone's Judge Dredd, or, you know, Judge Dredd with Stallone. The other one's named Dredd. You can say Dredd, we know what you're talking about, but the other one, no, it's Stallone's Judge Dredd.
Right.
Stallone's Judge Dredd.
I'd like to point out something that irritates me about people that don't like the movie. When someone doesn't like the movie and then gives the reason of him taking off the helmet, right? I then point out, I'm like, just as a lie to test them, I'm like, well, you know, he takes it off in the comics. So if you actually read them, he does take it off many times. And then they're like, oh, well, right. Cause you didn't read the comics. You're just fake angry at it. Now, when he does take off the helmet, but in the comics, when he takes it off, his face is obscured.
Yeah, you never see
something
face.
stupid. Yeah. It'd be like there's like a stick hanging out here or something.
So they've only done that a couple times. Then they do flashbacks where there's no detail to his younger face. The only time he's ever been in the comic without his helmet, he's using a face transformer thing because he goes undercover as a lawyer, and so it's not just Dredd you're looking at.
Right.
And while we're talking about the face, do you know what was the inspiration of Judge Dredd from the writer and the artist?
Was it Dirty Harry?
Well, Dirty Harry writing is what the original writer, I wrote down names because I suck remembering.
I know. I mean,
on the
same here. I
spot.
get names wrong all
So
the time.
John Wagner had an idea for like a Dirty Harry style character for 2000 AD, which is where this character, yes, his official appearance is the second issue. Technically, his first appearance is in the first one as an ad for his comic coming in the second one. But Carlos Esquara, I guess if I butchered that, I'm sorry. They were shown a poster of Death Race 2000 Frankenstein, the David Carradine in the motorcycle helmet at a profile, the original drawings of Judge Dredd. If you look at it, you're like, holy shit, that's
and Death Race 2000 has Sylvester Stallone.
Oh,
yeah. There you go. Nice.
Oh my God. That's
awesome. I forgot
destined.
about that. Yes, I got to see the actual Dragon Corvette. It was at one of the Corvette museums in New York, and they had like all these. Then they had the movie one. So I've seen. Damn it, I can't think of the name of it. The one with Mark Hamill.
Slipstream.
Like
no,
Guyver?
it's
Guyver.
No, not sci-fi. He has a Corvette in it, and I keep wanting to say Corvette Summer, but I don't think that's.
Oh, Midnight Ride.
No, not
the one with Michael
Ride.
Dudikoff.
No, it's him and Janine from Ghostbusters, Annie Potts.
I don't know what that
It'll
is.
come to me anyway. I
Corvette
saw his
Summer.
Is it Corvette Summer? So I should have went with my gut. So I've actually seen and touched the Corvette from Corvette Summer and Death Race 2000, which it's kind of, when you're a kid, I was like 14, 15. It's like, yes, I can touch it. That's awesome. But yeah.
Okay. So let's see. Do you guys know were the clones meant to be Judge Death or like him? I don't think they were. I think they were just going to be the brothers. I don't think that was ever a concept back then. I have always wanted to see him done in live action, and I would have loved a sequel to the Karl Urban one with him. I don't know if he would have worked necessarily in that one because it was a more sort of grounded, gritty one, but I think it would have been cool. I think it could have made it work.
I think the deaths would have worked better for the earlier Judge Dredd. The way they set the set. I'm trying not to say. I'm trying to break the habit.
We can't because I can't discuss it any other way. I was going to say, I was going to say it before we started this. Like, can we just say Stallone and Urban because we're going to start getting them confused?
We can do that. Yeah. I like saying Judge Dredd, but yeah. So the Stallone one I think would have worked better with the death storyline. And it would have fit better because I mean we've already seen the ABC robot and Mean and all the characters and just to kind of like there's rules but not really. We can throw like a ghost of a judge in this and we would believe it. Urban's
no,
I don't know.
Too much for the realism.
Yeah, way too much realism, which is why I can't compare these movies. I know we're not to the Urban part yet, but that's why I can't compare these two movies. Like we're saying verses, but as far as I'm concerned, you're just going to hear me gush about Judge Dredd for however long we're going. So
the funny thing is, and one thing which both films should be lauded for is how they feel so completely different, even though it's about the same character. Like they're very different tones of movies, and just the style is so different. Like it's almost not the same guy, but it is the same guy. There's still like the same things, and even Karl Urban still has some of the one-liners and things in it, which I like. They sort of kept it.
They kept the spirit of Dredd, but one's like the comic strip, and the other one's like graphic novel. You know, and that's kind of how I look at it a little bit. One's a little grittier. Now, the version I watched for the Stallone one, and I think you can get it now, is not quite PG-13, but it's not really R either. They've added some stuff there. And the one I watched today, I was like, I don't remember that much blood. There was quite a bit of blood they added back.
Yeah, I thought that too. Yeah,
because I had the PG-13 VHS, and it literally is like completely like almost no blood. I think you see Judge Griffin, a little bit of blood fall on the ABC robot's foot.
Yeah, when the arms get ripped off. Yeah,
but there's really no other scenes of blood in the PG-13 one. Now, this one I'm watching going, dude, there's a lot of blood in this one. Like the Angel Gang, there's a lot of blood. I mean, it's just everywhere. So they tried.
I literally would have watched it if this. Say, imagine it had been like a TV series at the time. I would have watched, as a full episode just with Max von Sydow on the Cursed Earth, just walking around in his gun, trying to bring the law to people and fighting people or whatever. And I was like, I'd watch that. That would be awesome.
Be like a futuristic kung fu, like a post-apocalyptic kung fu would be awesome.
Yeah. There you go. There's your reboot right there.
Yeah.
But I love that whole thing, and that's where it was just like, well, I like this part of Judge Dredd. Let's pull that in. Let's put it in the movie. Oh, I like this. Oh, we can't forget about this. But I got a feeling it was like they had mountains of source material, which is where current Hollywood is screwing up. They actually took mountains of source material and went, okay, what can we fit in this movie? We don't need to create anything new. Let's just pull from here. Unlike now, where it's like, I don't want to read that. I'll just create my own version with the name.
Yeah,
no, J-Man, we're not getting
everything.
Yeah, we're not getting J-Man fired up again. But I just wanted to give that juxtaposition of
but that's the news yesterday. Yeah, I remember yesterday, or I think it was just the past few days anyway, that the producer from the Marvel movies came out and said that if you're a fan of Marvel comics or whatever, that's a red flag and you can't write them. And I was like, oh, that's why the Marvel movies are fucking terrible now.
Yep.
So that explains it.
Yep, we'll see what Iger can do back in charge. So
I mean, it's a bit just as bad as each other, and yet Kathleen Kennedy's still employed. She's the one who should be fired, but that's a conversation for another.
There's rumors about that. We'll see where
I'll believe it when I see it.
We've heard this how many times over how many years.
Yeah,
I'll believe it when I see it.
Yeah. Right. And they've still got to kill Indiana Jones next year and have him emasculated by the female, which was exactly what's going to happen. He's going to be a bumbling idiot and made to look dumb by her. But anyway, Judge Dredd, stay on target. But yeah, 1995 version. It's still a lot of fun. I think if people watched it now for the first time, they'd be like, "Oh, that's lame" or whatever else. But I think because movies these days are mostly awful, that we go back and we just enjoy these movies so much more. And you're just like, "Oh, there's no political thing being thrown at you here or anything else. It's just a fun action movie, and that's it."
But there is. But it never felt like that.
It's subtle.
Right.
It is so subtle, but it's like some people don't realize Judge Dredd is actually a satirical character. It is about, like, he is the embodiment of this non-stopping, overreaching judgment and society, police state. He is that embodiment. If anything, I wish I could go, like, if I could go back, Charlie, you can go back, you can change one movie with one director and it'll happen, is I want Paul Verhoeven to do Judge Dredd.
Oh, hell yeah.
Right. He would be perfect.
Yeah.
Right? Like, how did no one just go, you know what, maybe we should talk to Paul? We've seen RoboCop.
Because RoboCop is Judge Dredd.
Yeah, and
that is a spiritual.
I think it's
Judge
97
Dredd.
For Starship Troopers, 96 or 97.
Yeah.
So it's not quite there.
A lot of that same
even more into it, although it was more on a global scale. So he was ready. Like, you could have went from Detroit to the mega cities, to Buenos Aires and the entire planet dealing with, Klendathu. So if I could go back one thing and change, it would be Paul Verhoeven directs 1995 Judge Dredd.
That would have been awesome. And I guarantee it would have been rated R. There would have been more nudity in it, which is always good. More nudity, more exploding heads, everything that makes a film good.
Diane Lane, I wouldn't have complained.
Yeah. Sign me up. Yeah, I'd agree with that. So that's 1995 Judge Dredd. So on to the 2012 Karl Urban film. I saw this as part of TIFF whenever it came out back in, which is 10 years ago. This is 10-year anniversary.
10-year anniversary. Yeah.
In fact, that might have been one of the last times I was at TIFF, because I don't even bother anymore because it's so expensive and the tickets are nearly impossible to get.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I remember for the first time I saw it. I loved the movie straight away. It wasn't like, it's all right. I was watching it. I was like, oh, holy shit, this is awesome. It's hardcore. I was like, I know one of the tedious criticisms everybody says is about it being like The Raid. But this was, in production before that. And the rest of it. Yes. We know that. Shut the fuck up. That doesn't matter. Yeah. And it's suitably different anyway. I mean, the story's different. Like, there's been movies in confined locations before The Raid. But I just love what they did with, like, the world building here, where it feels real and it feels like it could be a believable future. And like it's scary. And I think Lena Headey is absolutely terrifying as Mama when she just like skin them alive. Yeah, and then like you just see them like being thrown over, and then you got the whole slow-mo thing. And at first, I wasn't sure about the slow-mo thing because the scenes sort of went on just a little too long sometimes. But that was really just me nitpicking on the day. But generally, loved it. Love Karl Urban, who really channels Clint Eastwood for his portrayal there. Like I said, when he's like, "Yeah, Mama's not the law. I'm the law." Yeah, I just love that. And then he's got sort of a dry sense of humor as well. Like the film still has a sense of humor, which I like. It's hilariously violent. Now this is hard R. You got the Gatling gun scene, which is probably my favorite action scene, which is blowing the shit out of
God, I love
the apartments across the other side. So that's awesome. Love Anderson as well. I think she's fantastic. She's a pass. But yeah, I mean, he just got his Batman voice. So like, really, Karl Urban really should just be, Batman. Or we all just wanted to see him more as Judge Dredd. Because I remember there was talk of them doing like a Mega City 1 series a few years ago, and that never happened, unfortunately. So I was like, why do good things not seem to happen anymore? But here's a 12th Batman film in 6 months. Oh, great.
Right, yeah, and I can't get one Mega City which is where it needs to go. Like, honestly, do a good movie now, roll into a television show so I can see like mini movies as it goes through, and you can follow so many more storylines with a television show, and you don't have to follow. Yeah, you don't even have to do Dredd in every one of them. Like there are tons of judges all over the place. Then you could even like dip into the Cursed Earth a little bit if you wanted to.
Yeah, they haven't even explored the Cursed Earth in the 2012 film. It was just that.
No, it never even gets brought up.
Yeah. I love it's called Peach Trees, and there's nothing peachy or trees about the.
Well, Heavenly Haven.
I was gonna say, just like Heavenly. That's where I'm supposed to be. That's right.
Nope. I feel like still making 80s action movies through the 90s. Yeah.
God bless him.
Thank God.
Because it made money. Arnold was still doing that basically, even after T2, he kind of went back again and went like, no, this worked. But then it evolved. And again, I've talked about it before that the 90s is the fall of the Greek god action hero. Yeah. It turned into the everyman action heroes with the Bruce Willis's, Nick Cage's, stuff like that. Not that they weren't prevalent, but, people finally went, we're never going to top Stallone and Schwarzenegger. Like even now, all we have is like Batista and Rock, and even they haven't really tried to jump in those shoes yet.
No, and most of their movies are shite. So
right, their early stuff was great, and I was behind it.
I actually prefer Batista as an actor. I think he does more interesting movies. He's not afraid to play different roles. He's been villains and R-rated movies and things like that. Whereas The Rock just kind of plays The Rock and everything.
I think The Rock should have went back to things like he was starting with like Faster.
Faster is his best ever film.
Is by far his best film. It is a fantastic film, period.
Yeah.
But that, to me, if The Rock had kept going that way, good God, man, that would have been phenomenal. He would be up there with action stars, but he went like kid friendly because you follow where the money is.
Yeah, I mean, he became a brand, and that was the thing, and made tons of money. But if I had the opportunity, I'd do the same. You can make $20 million. Yeah, sure. Okay,
right. Well, who are we to sit here knocking for it? I mean, he's doing it, and he was brought up in the Vince McMahon School of Business. Basically, it's like, where's the money at? We go there. That's where we go. Is where the money is. Yeah. But yeah.
The problem is it might not be legacy building.
Yeah,
I don't think New Hollywood cares about legacy building anymore.
They don't care about content. Up something.
Yeah.
It's like you can have a brand.
Content, enjoy content, look forward to next content, and that's it.
Right. But the thing is that we already see it's already failing. It can only survive for a certain amount of time before people are like, well, I don't care anymore. There's not going to be if you think about Spider-Man No Way Home, we have nostalgia for like Tobey Maguire. Like that's not 100 years ago. It's like, because that's the only legacy that they had. It's Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire, and you're like, it's like, oh, I'm so nostalgic. That was not 100 years ago. It's like 10 years ago or whatever. Like for Andrew Garfield, it's like it's not like Expendables where you're bringing back like way past guys.
Yeah, that's different. That's way back in our early 80s and forward.
Golden age
difference. Yeah. And not to go too far off, but since we're talking about it, and I know everyone's up in arms about the whole everything like Tarantino's been talking about. He did say something that I was interested in, where he's like, I got one more movie in me, and I'm done. I'm not going to do it anymore. He's like, why? I'd rather leave up here than watch myself get lower and lower and then be forced out.
Right.
Why not just go? And I'm like, man, if we could just have that mentality going forward sometimes with some of these movie makers and stuff. It's not like spit it out. No, man, do quality, get it up here, put it out really good. The fans that will enjoy it, and they will let you know about it. And that's Tarantino's very 50-50 with most people. It's like you either like him or you don't. You know, there's not a lot of like, I could take him or leave him. No, that's not a Tarantino movie. There's no take it or leave it. You know, and I'm a huge Tarantino fan, regardless of what he was talking about, you know, about the Marvel characters and shit like that.
I mean, he's right about that, though. I mean,
to a degree, I think so. I do think, though, actors have to embody those characters. And basically the Chris Evans thing. Like, I can't picture anyone else but Chris Evans being Captain America now. But they had him in that role for far too long. Same with Robert Downey Jr. Well, Red Brown will always be. He's our man. Jay and I both are in his fan group and friends with him and all this other stuff. But, you know, it's like, I'm not going to like shit on him and stuff. But now it's like these new ones that are coming out. It's like, do 2 movies and then leave the character and open it up for someone else to like, I'm not trying to start J-Man up again, but, you know, the whole Black Panther thing.
No.
It's T'Challa did 2 good movies of the character. Now give it to someone else. Now let it continue on. Don't pigeonhole one actor to a role to where from now on no one can picture anyone else in that role. You know, that's the bullshit of those characters.
Yeah. And I think Tarantino was saying sort of like, they're not coming to see you doing your acting. They're coming to see the character.
Yeah, I will agree
America
with that.
With a shield. Yeah. You know, like I want to see Iron Man. I don't necessarily like. I like Robert Downey Jr. I'm not a big Iron Man guy, to be honest, even in the movies, and I don't think his movies were so great, to be honest. But anyways, like I don't care who's in that costume. I like the Iron Man costume. I've got the statue of it like right there. Yeah. But like, I just want to see the Iron Man suit. I don't really care about Tony Stark's character. You know, and that's the thing, right? And that's with a lot of these Marvel characters. And I read Marvel comics every day. Just went to the comic store today.
But if someone does it bad, though, that hurts our perception, though, of that character, too. And also that hurts the perception of the character as far as maybe being a moneymaker. It could be a great character in the comics, but then they screw it up on silver screen. And now they're like, yeah, that one's bad. We're not going to bring that character back anymore. And it's like, well, screw it, man. We just lost that one just because of a bad actor. You know, so there's 2 ways, you know, there's a 2-way street, you know,
we could bring it back. We could bring it back to Karl Urban, because I feel that in Dredd, I feel that Karl Urban is delivering a performance. I feel that his heart is in the role. And I don't think he's obviously not doing it for a big paycheck, because he's not getting a big one for that movie.
No.
He's already up against ridicule from the previous film. This is the 2nd attempt ever at live action. So he's got a lot to go against. I feel that he really believed in this project and really wanted to go far with this character. And I think it shows on the screen. And I think that's what Tarantino's pointing out. Like, you're just whoever showing up to say your lines and okay, there you've done your character and now you can, you know, leave. You're not really invested. How invested are you? I don't think there's too many people who are invested in the superhero characters they play. They're like, yeah, it's fun to be Captain America. Okay, or whatever. I don't want to throw Chris Evans on.
No, we're not dogpiling on Chris Evans.
Yeah, it's you know, it's
Thor, a good example. Like, or Chris Hemsworth too. I mean, it is a good example.
It's like, okay, and then he's like, I want more comedy. Well, sorry, Hemsworth, that's not the character, so you obviously don't care. This is what I'm saying. Like, Karl Urban didn't come in, like Stallone did come in. We have to fault him, come in and say, well, I think it should be funnier, and I think we should take the mask off. I don't want my mask on the whole time. Karl Urban came in and it's like, what is this character? I'm going to play it. Well, Karl, the mask's on all the time. That's okay. It's going to be
no ego there.
Yeah. No ego. Right. He's like, I'm about this project. I'm about this role. That's an actor coming to a role, not someone coming to Spider-Man and saying, well, 70% of the time I'm in the Spider-Man costume, my mask needs to be off. It's like, Spider-Man never takes it off in front of people, ever.
Right.
Tobey Maguire lived with it off half the movies. You're like, really? So again.
Yeah. And there's another way to look at it too, is while we can say Stallone had ego that he wanted to show his face, and that's true, the flip side of that is, if you are a true actor, that would be a challenge to you. It's like, you're not going to get to take the mask off. And it's like, damn, now I've got to figure out, how do I still do what I do and succeed at it? So you have to have a little bit of an ego going, yeah, I'm badass enough that I can pull this off without people seeing, because his face has been out there for a while, even before he did Dredd. I mean, you know, he wasn't as big of a name as, say, he is like right now for like the past like 5 years. This is still, well, was this still pre Star Trek when he was Bones?
Yeah, Star Trek was 2009, so it was just after.
Just after he did that one. So that was still just, he wasn't huge, because he was doing TV. He was doing the Almost Human. Did only one season of that. He was an extra in, you know, like Lord of the Rings. It was a named character, but he was not one of the main characters.
Eomer was one of the main characters. Eomer was a huge character.
But I meant like the Fellowship, you know, where you're talking about Gimli and, you know, Sam and all, you know, he wasn't that. Now, he was important, but it didn't matter that was Karl Urban playing that role. He just was really good at it whenever he pulled it off. But I loved him in Dredd, man. I went to theater and watched Dredd. I've watched it like 3 times in theater. There's been 2 movies that have come out recently, ish, if we call this recently, is when I walk out of a movie and I go, holy shit, I can't wait to watch it again. And it's Dredd and Mad Max Fury Road, where I literally was like, okay, when are we watching it again? Like, let's go tomorrow night. Yeah, it's like, I gotta go watch it again, because I feel like I took it all in, but I feel like I missed shit. I want to go back again and watch it on the big screen. And it works too. It's kind of like, you know, how Karl Urban took this role like Tom Hardy did, taking over for Mel Gibson, essentially. I mean, he didn't have a mask on, but he was tied. You know, that's some big shoes to fill.
And he was a supporting character in his own film. It was really the Furiosa movie. Yeah.
Right. But he's still memorable enough in it, and it's still, you know, a fantastic movie, you know, even without that character being top, you know, following Max around, it still did what it did, and it's still probably one of my favorite movies, newer, ever done. But Dredd, when I watched this one, and like we were talking about how expanded the Stallone one was, this one felt closer to our timeline. This one felt more grounded in reality. You know, there's city streets, there's cars, there's nothing flying in Dredd, so we don't have that aspect of it. It's very terrestrial. There's no talk of the cursed earth. And then we go even tighter, and we take one building out of Mega City 1 and we make a story out of it, which I thought was great. Yes, there's many floors and there was a lot to go, but the fact that they took this huge character that has world building for decades, and went, let's put them in a high rise and let's see how 2 judges go up against basically an army of gangs. Right. And they nailed it, man. I love, this is why there's never be which one do I like more. I can't answer that, because I like this one for reasons and I like Stallone's for reasons. There is no favorite. I will watch them back to back. And it's really just because of chronological, it'll be Stallone, then Karl Urban's. That's how I watch it, because that's how they came out. But you can't have Dredd without what Stallone did too. I mean, I think that had to happen for us to appreciate even what Dredd did. Even the naysayers of the Stallone have to be like, well, we still needed that, because now we see like what a grittier, darker, bloodier version of this Dredd is, and I'm there for it. And it works so well, man. I could gush for an hour, guys. You're going to have to shut me up. Jump in.
I can gush for.
Over to J-Man. Go.
Yeah, I like Judge Dredd for some reason. I don't know. Let's just come on.
I've got that figure in the closet. That's right there. That's the only Judge Dredd figure I have. I think I had someone else, but I lost them. That's awesome. Yeah, I like that. Yeah. Well,
friend of mine does those little.
Oh yes, the pixel
things. She made me a Judge Dredd.
That is so
cool.
cool.
I have shit everywhere. Judge Dredd behind me.
Oh, he was in Xena. Awesome.
That's right. He wasn't it like a. Oh crap! He had wings or some shit. He looked like a cherub almost kind of character in the Xena series.
I've got all of
remember.
Xena and Hercules right there, but I just haven't watched it.
I haven't
never seen
rewatched
it.
them in forever, but I watched them like when they came out. Like every time it would show, I think it was USA channel we had them on.
Right.
Go figure. We had a channel called USA. Did you guys have one called Canada?
Well, everything was Canada, pretty much. It
I didn't
all
grow
had
up in
some
Canada, so I grew up in Scotland.
Or Scotland. We have
Yeah.
the Scotland channel.
Did we? ITV, I guess.
Yeah, ITV is
Oh, we literally had one called the USA
No,
channel.
I know you had
I know
USA.
you
Yeah,
had
no, I know
Luke.
you
Yeah,
had it. Yeah, we know
USA.
it. Yeah.
USA.
Well, I mean, I saw Dredd when it came out immediately, first day opening night, all that stuff. I also saw Raid. I don't think firstly when I was 16, I already made a Raid movie, so they all copied me. It's called Building of Terror. My friends and I made it. We shot it in a building. The movie was so bad we ended up making it a trailer where we just put all the cool parts in it. And so we already made that movie when I was 16. So that's like 30 years ago or whatever. Anyway, so I don't care about the comparisons. I'm just looking at the movie Dredd. The movie to me is a masterpiece. I think it's 10 out of 10 on Space on my rating system. I can't find any fault in that movie. I've watched it 3 times in one day once. I've watched several analysis videos on it as well for the deeper meanings of things. And I think the slow motion is brilliant. I think using slow motion as part of a story instead of a style is very interesting.
Yes.
I think the violence during the slow motion parts is amazing and beautiful while simultaneously being very gross, but very well done. I like the character of Dredd in this. The way everything he says and does is perfect. I love how they've kept him mysterious, but not in a stupid way, where in the beginning she asks Anderson, "What can you tell me about the person standing next to me?" And she's like, "Oh, he's a judge. Oh, there's something deeper." And then she's like, "That's enough." And they just cut it off. It's like,
I love that.
And then you just see his face and he's just like, okay, where's this going? And then they just cut it off. That's brilliant. Her not wearing the helmet because it interferes with her psychic abilities, where a bullet might interfere with them more, is
I love that. Yeah,
that's such a great line. Love it.
They subvert expectations, which is one of these, jerk off things that everyone always says, except in this movie, the way they subverted it is by taking regular action movie cliches where I have a bomb strapped to me. If you kill me, you'll kill everybody. It's like, well, it's like 200 stories straight down. That device ain't going to link to anything. Let's try it out. You're like, that's genius. That's subverting expectations in a fun, cool way. I think Mama is an amazing character.
She's fantastic.
I love her in this.
She's a thinking villain. She's cruel, but also thinking, and not. She's crazy, but not. She's crazy because she's evil, but not crazy like in a stupid way or yelling and screaming. They capture Anderson. They're like, look, shoot her. She died in a shootout. No raping, no torturing. We can't have any more people because eventually the judges will just take us all out because you can't actually really stop them if they're all on the same page, right?
And it was never about she cared about Anderson. It was she had a reason not to do that.
Right.
She didn't give a shit.
Right. Right. For sure. Yeah. I think everything that movie's great. Comic book wise, the Stallone movie on a visual way, and actually there's a lot of satire in that comic. The comic could be considered a comedy. It is versatile. Dredd is a versatile character because you tell stories that are super wacky and just off the wall bonkers and silly. Like literally, like this was so silly, but it kind of works for Dredd. Then you can tell really dark ones, and that also works. Both movies present both aspects. Visual aspects of Judge Dredd Stallone is for sure more like the comics.
Yeah.
His costume with the super big shoulders, like that is the comic book Judge Dredd. Yeah, that's it. Like that, like Stallone looks like that, right?
Yeah, that's the way it looks there. Just looking there,
Yeah. And that's Mike Mignola art, who always is. For me, he works for Hellboy, not so much for Dredd, but whatever.
But it's cool to see though whenever they do those.
I do like Simon
things.
Beasley, who's I think the one that you had. I think I only saw it for a second, but anyways.
His has that stretched out.
He's got that So visually it's amazing, but then the problem is that there's too much going on. This one is so laser focused that as a movie it works better for me. I can't decide on a winner. I can't say Dredd is better as a film because I'm not comparing to the comics anymore, because neither is exactly the comics and neither is not the comics. So they're both like pretty close to the comics in a different way. Dredd is an absolute masterpiece movie. One of my favorite action movies. Like, I mean, I would say Die Hard is obviously there, right? Like Hard Boiled. But I would say Dredd, if I tried to make a thing, I might get that in the top 10 best action movies for me of all time, in the same place as a Hard Boiled or as a Die Hard Part 1, or even like a First Blood or something. Like, it would be in that pantheon for me, which is crazy for a newer movie. Since Dredd, I would say Fury Road is very good too, and I have a lot of positive points that will go
Road Warrior's so better.
People. Well, Road Warriors are my top 10 films of all time.
This is where I have like a category. Like, I have my favorite newer movies, which Dredd is in. And then I have to go back because I feel like it's just two different genres. But, you know, it's like this one is better for these reasons, but yet you can never. It's like, I love my co-host, but where he says Prey is the best Predator movie. And I'm like, no, it can't be, because it can't ever surpass Predator.
No,
period. Or Predator 2 or Predator 3.
And that's me too, but it's like, no. So it's like Prey is a good movie in my new movie category.
It's not a great movie. No.
It's not going to be Predator, you know, and it's not, you know, that's where like Die Hard is over here. Expendables is over here because it is everything over here that I love put together, but it will never be greater than these over here.
No.
So that's kind of how and talking about the silliness, I was going to say, in the comic book, there's a judge fish. There's a fish that's a judge. So, I mean, come on, they don't take themselves seriously in the comics.
Oh, you know? No. And I think people, when they say, oh, that's the Stallone movie, so stupid and silly, it's like, well, are you reading these comics or are you pretending to read them? Because there's a lot of pretenders. Because when I started reading the comics, I'm like, wow, this is really silly. There's a lot of weird stuff. Like, even the robots, there's like this robot war where they're like,
there's a huge robot war.
And you're like, and some of the robots, it's like, what was the robot's name? Call Me Ken or something?
Something like that. I'd have to
it's
look
like
it
the
up
villain's
again.
name. It says like, Call Me Kenneth. I think it's Call Me Kenneth. And that's the main villain. It's a robot that says "Call me Kenneth" on the thing. You're like,
and it's like people don't understand. Like, when this is where I liked what Dredd did. You know, the Karl Urban was they make mention of the muties. Like they use that word. That is huge in the comics. There are muties everywhere. Just these deformed people and societies that are existing at the same time as everything else. So whenever they say that in there, I was like, oh, I love that.
And then going back to the Stallone one, someone says "Holy Drock" at one point.
Yes,
they say Drock.
That's from the comics.
Yeah,
I love that. You know, that's their cussing.
That's the cussing.
Yeah, that's their cussing in that. But no, the Karl Urban, man, this is where I can't compare the two. It is so great on every level, but that it works for the way they said it, the way they wrote it, and what their goal was at the end of it. Stallone's is fantastic, but it works on where they went with. They went more comic book style. The only downer is they took off the helmet, but I will never bash them for that, because without Stallone, maybe I would have just been like, I don't really care about that comic book character and not have all this cool shit around me, you know, not have it literally tattooed on my arm. You know, I am a Dredd fan. I don't care. I look at it like there's never the same artist. There's never the same writer. Like, it always is evolving and moving. They had one rule: you don't take his helmet off. That was really the only rule. But there were so many different variations and versions of Dredd that when I watch movies, to me, it's just a new version of that character I know. You know, so that's why I like that. And I love the newer version with Karl Urban. It was just a more grounded, it felt like maybe in 20 years, that's what the world's going to look like kind of thing. You know, technology will take off and I can talk to my gun and tell it what to shoot at people. And you guys talked about like your favorite scenes in Dredd with Karl Urban. I have to bring up mine, and it's right after Owens with the minigun is when he walks out and throws the dude over the rail,
and just casually walks back,
turns around back into the smoke, and everyone no one shoots at him. They all just watch him be like, this dude's a badass.
Yeah, it's so awesome.
But it works like the mystery of Dredd was like when she calls in the reinforcements and they're like 1 million and they're like, why? He goes, do you know who you're up against? No. He goes, I do.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's all that's like, I know who's here. And it's going to be 1 million credits for me to go deal with this dude.
The guy with the guy with the ginger hair and who had the eyes cut. I never realized until this viewing that's Donald Gleason, who is in the Star Wars sequels. It's General Hux.
General Hux.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah. I didn't know that until this time. I was like, holy shit, that's Donald Gleason.
Oh my God. Oh, he was a great character. I have to say, Anderson, Olivia Thirlby or whatever. I think she's a bloody genius. When I saw her before seeing the movie, I was like, fuck me, she's the worst person. Oh God, this is going to be brutal. And within 2 seconds, I was like, ooh, okay. And then I'm like, maybe my favorite character. Like, I don't want to say no one's better than Karl Urban, but I was like, man,
she nailed the role of Anderson.
And she manages to prove herself without emasculating him and making him look like a fucking idiot or whatever.
Right.
Exactly.
She's still awesome in her own right, and her skills are needed because she has different skills from him.
Right.
And again, you get the fake fans who will be like, well, Anderson's like this, and they were partners and friends and all. No, they actually really didn't like each other in the comics. He had a respect for her,
right?
And he did eventually start to care for her, but there was never like this tight bond, and they nail that in this movie.
Yeah,
they act like he's just like, okay, you're my student right now, you're my trainee. Let's go do it. And if you fucking mess up, I'm failing you, period. To where she's even like, I already know you're going to fail me. I lost my gun. So it's like, if I'm already going to be out, I'm going to go out like a badass. And then she gets to go in and clean house with him, which I love that whole thing. But they nailed it with her. And some people don't realize Diane Lane, is a character from the comics, but she's not a love interest. She was just an equal almost. She was a chief judge.
Yeah.
But he had so much respect for her because she was a chief judge, not the Diane Lane pretty
they never really did a love interest for him though in the comics, did they?
No,
not
yeah.
So he's never been about that, which I think is what they nail in
the law is his wife.
The Stallone, when he's talking about the ethics of law to the kids, that is basically, Judge Dredd. That's who he is. That's how he lives his life. Another cool thing, like not a lot of people know, and I know we're talking to a bunch of people that know us, is Judge Dredd goes by year. Every year that goes by, Judge Dredd ages. So he's like in his 80s right now. Now their workaround is, it is the future. They have rejuvenation serums and stuff like that where they can like heal certain parts of you. He has never allowed them to fully heal his entire body. He did his skin, a few other things, but he didn't let them do his organs. They didn't let him do his bones. So he's still an old man aging as it continues on, and it's still going on. It's still happening. There's a Dredd magazine. It's still going on in 2000 AD, and 2000 AD is not just Judge Dredd.
No, it's anthology.
It's all anthology. There's so many awesome stories.
I like Strontium Dog, who is
Strontium Dog.
Is awesome. He's awesome.
Oh,
and nobody ever talks about that character. I picked up a few digital trades on him, and I was like, "Whoa, this guy's so good."
There's a Star-Lord. There's so many awesome characters, stories in this. And J-Man and I have a mutual love of Tank Girl, and it's because of our love of Judge Dredd, because it's like that's a female version of not quite Judge Dredd, but almost like a 2000 AD story.
Yep.
That exactly. And so it just, when I first watched that movie, I went, and that wasn't long after watching Judge Dredd with Stallone. So you're just like, these are awesome, and both did shit. I know, as far as the critics, and it's bullshit.
I've got the Tank Girl poster right behind there. I've got the CD on cassette, man, and then I bought it on CD. And like, I love Tank Girl. I had the VHS. I rented it so many times.
I've never seen it. I've never seen Tank Girl.
Tubi. Tubi. It's on Tubi.
To the Batmo Tubi.
To the Batmo Tubi. Tune in next week when Owen watches Tank Girl.
Well, everyone else hated it. I fought my friends and his dad. My buddy's dad took the three of us. We all sat and watched Tanker. We came out, all three of them like, this is the worst movie I've ever seen. I was like, I love this movie. I fought my friend, my other friend, and his father in the whole drive home saying, no, you guys suck. This movie was awesome. What are you talking about? Blah, blah.
My dad loved it. It is, again, one of those like movies that you really wouldn't expect it, where my dad's like, that was really good, right? I'm like, yeah, that was awesome. Rewind it. Let's watch it again. Lori Petty is amazing.
Lori Petty's awesome. And the girl, Naomi Watts is Jet Girl.
Naomi Watts. Malcolm McDowell is
villain.
Perfect villain. But yes, it all ties. If you haven't seen Tank Girl, watch that, then watch Stallone's Judge Dredd, and you'll get what we're talking about. And you just watched Turbo Kid, right, Owen?
Oh no, I saw it a few years ago.
You saw it a few years ago.
Yeah.
Who was it that just watched it? Something like that. I forget.
Because you sent it the other day, and I was like, why are you sending this? I've already seen this.
Who was it?
Who was
someone?
it?
I don't know.
I forget now. I got the Blu-ray coming anyway. Oh, and if you want to get the Tank Girl on Blu-ray, it's like stupid expensive.
Oh, really? I've got it on Blu-ray. Of course, I pre-ordered all this.
Yeah, it's stupid expensive still. Actually, the Judge Dredd, the Karl Urban Judge Dredd Steelbook is stupid expensive, and an original release Blu-ray of Stallone's Judge Dredd is actually expensive. I was like, come on, it can't be that hard
for like a 4K of these movies, and then I want a 4K of the Conan movies. I was like, you get a piece of shit like Red Sonja and you do a 4K of that, and then you fuck it up, and then you don't do the Conan movies. Like, do the Conan movies. Come on.
They already screwed up the Blu-ray of the Conan movie, which is a long story, which I can tell you if you want privately.
We'll do that on the Conan show. Let's do the Conan one next week. Because I know we've been talking about that for a while.
We're going heavy for the end of the year. It's Dredd and Conan. What is this? Our Christmas presents, Jay? Man,
yeah, this is like my favorite movies here.
I know. So, but before, because there's a couple of things I want to discuss, but we'll do as everybody said everything you want to say about Dredd 2012.
No, but okay.
Yeah, I could talk forever on that.
I could go on and on.
So, well, I'm going to say. Of the two of them, for me, Dredd 2012 is the superior film in every way. I think Karl Urban is fantastic. He's so badass. He really captures that Clint Eastwood, Dirty Harry type character with him, which is just total stoic badass. It's gloriously violent. You got a great villain in Mama. The music's cool as well. The score, it's very different. Although it's not like Alan Silvestri's swelling heroic score. This is more electronic, but it's really cool. Yeah. And really works well for the movie. So, yeah, for me, I enjoy the Stallone movie for what it is. It's a fun, sort of campy 90s action movie, but I still really enjoy it for what it is then. But for me, it's a 2012 one all the way. Fair. Charlie?
Oh, me? Yeah, you are in on me. Go ahead,
and on Charlie, because he's gonna.
Okay, J-Man.
Any movie that starts off with comic books, like Return of the Swamp Thing, Tank Girl, even Judge Dredd,
I've never seen the Swamp Thing movies either.
Oh my God! I have every Swamp Thing.
What is going on?
I am ashamed.
Oh, dude.
Oh.
Return of the Swamp Thing posters already.
I know. I can still see the posters. I've never seen them.
Oh my God. Okay. That's a hard poster to get. I'm very happy about that purchase. But anyways, Dredd. Karl Urban Dredd. I think it's a masterpiece. I think both movies represent the comic in different ways, and both are equal in that sense. Yeah. So I'm forgetting the comic. I'm going by the film. The Judge, like Stallone Judge Dredd is a great, entertaining action movie, great popcorn movie. Too many plot lines, too many things going on where none of them shine enough. I could have had 4 movies out of everything they introduced in that movie. Mm. They shoved it all into one, which was a great, fun, one-off movie. And it's a good thing we got all that in one movie because we never got any more movies. Right. So at least we have a representation of the ABC robots, the Angel Family, right? Yeah. Pico, all that. But as a tight script, brisk movie, it's a masterpiece action film. It's beautifully shot, edited, acted. All the characters are amazing. Even the side characters. I remember even, like, as you said, there's the hacker guy. There's even the black guy they captured. Like, every guy's unique. Even the homeless guy who's like, there's like, don't be there. And you're like, yeah. So I don't know. I think it's, and even that's very funny too. I think there's a lot of satire in that movie too. But yeah, I think it's a masterpiece. It's like it's probably in my like top 50 favorite films of all time. Dredd is. So yeah.
I also like how there's no meat you could cut from it. Every single scene, every moment of the film is necessary. There's nothing where like I'm bored. Is this scene necessary? No, it's all necessary, and there isn't any fat that you could trim off it. It just really works really well.
Super fast pace. Everything pushes the story along, which is great. And it's easy to follow. I mean, really, it's a mission, and almost not quite a mystery, but they kind of play it off as a little bit of a mystery of why is she trying to kill this guy. But you're trying to see it from, we see everything, but Dredd's putting the pieces together. And I kind of like that aspect of it. I cannot pick one over the other. Even if I take the comic book aspect of it out, when I watch Stallone, I am smiling ear to ear. I am enjoying every scene. I know the movie by heart. Fun fact, did you know Central, the voice of that, is Adrienne Barbeau?
Oh my God.
What? I did not know that. Oh my God.
She's uncredited.
You're real, actually.
Yeah, it's Adrienne Barbeau. For those of you that don't know, go watch Escape from New York and The Fog. And you know, John Carpenter favorite. So yeah, I can watch Judge Dredd over and over, Stallone Judge Dredd over and over again. I never get bored with it, never get tired. I probably do watch it multiple times every year. I am a huge Dredd fan from the comics to the movies, and it's because of that movie that I am a fan. Dredd came out and it didn't disappoint me at all. What I didn't know what to expect because of the Stallone version and what I know from the comics. It is if you really want to get nitty gritty, it is the one that detracts furthest from the comics. There's not that many until the movie came out, and then they did a movie series of that version of Dredd, in a comic version. So it was a new kind of take on it, modernized, and I was there for it. I mean, it was in 3D when I watched it, so all the slow-mo stuff was even more immersive. The gore is fantastic. To me, I just got a bloodier version of a character that was well acted by Urban. He didn't take the helmet off, so they were very can't think of the right word, but they were true to the character.
Keeping the spirit of the character in the comics. Yeah.
It's like if I could have had Karl Urban's acting and mannerisms in Stallone's universe of Judge Dredd,
that'd be perfect.
Put him in that outfit, leave the helmet on, but I still want that stone stoic, just very flat talking, some comedy to it, but in his own dry way, and not the I am Judge Dredd always with his chest out. But that's a Stallone thing, and I'm not going to ding him for that. There are literal times he's posing in that movie for no reason. Like it's when they show him the clones, he's got his gut sucked in so damn tight, and his pecs are about to explode, and I'm like, it's Stallone. I'm not even mad. I love it. They're equal to me in my enjoyment level and for what I love the movies, gave me. And my kids have watched them. They know Dad's huge Judge Dredd thing. If you want to get Dad something for Christmas, put Judge Dredd on it, and he'll love you. My kid made a Judge Dredd in Minecraft for me one year.
Oh my God,
he just built like this big picture of Judge Dredd, and I was like, I love that. I can't touch it, but I love it. It's so good. You're my boy. You're my boy, Blue. So there is no which one is better. I can watch either at any time. I watched them back to back today. It's a tie as far as I'm concerned. They do it for me, and I will forever love it. But I understand your guys' take on it, and they're not wrong takes. It just hits me a little bit different when it comes to these two movies.
Okay, so we have 2 for Dredd and then 1 tie, so we'll just go with Dredd 2012 wins.
So we just have to declare a winner.
Yep, it's 2 versus 1.
God damn it! It got voted out of the tournament. I didn't know it was in the tournament all of a sudden. I will take my journey into the cursed earth.
Yeah, I know. So actually, in fairness, so I love Rob Schneider. I am the law.
That line is great. I love it. Mr. I am the law.
He's like this. It's like, wait, that's you. Yeah.
And one of the, I forget the guy's name, one of the first like gang members is a pretty famous actor from
James Remar, Ajax.
James Remar, yeah,
Ajax,
from like the Warriors and stuff like that. I always
figures right there, the Ajax figures right there.
I see him all the time, and I'm like, dude, for just a bit throwaway part that he gets blown away, I'm like, damn, it's James Remar. That's awesome.
I just got Dexter's dad.
Dexter's dad. You know,
so I always forget his name for some reason. I don't know why.
He was in.
I just always forget his name. He's Dexter's dad.
Crap. The Patrick Next of Kin. Yeah. He is the one that come from the hills, and he's in the hotel room, causing the disturbance that Patrick Swayze has to go talk to him. And so that was a nice
everywhere. He was rated. He's rated in Mortal Kombat 2.
He's rated it. He's in the second Fast and the Furious. He's one of the detectives that is dealing with Paul Walker, I think. I could be wrong, but yeah.
He's in one of them, yes.
He's everywhere, man. Everywhere.
Oh yeah, he's
everywhere.
And Judge Dredd
and everything. Yeah. So a movie I watched the other day, and it was actually an action movie. I don't know if you guys have seen it. This is another movie that was kind of a flop at the time, and everybody hated. And then I remember watching it when it came out, and I think it was 1995. And I don't really remember what I thought of it, but I watched it at the weekend, and I was like, "This movie's awesome." Virtuosity.
Oh my God! I watched it in theater. Yes.
Yeah. That's fucking awesome movie. It's like so cool.
Awesome, yeah.
Denzel's character is just like total badass. I've done a Sumi article for which I'm going to post at some point. I might as well post it tomorrow. And it's like Sumi. I like
Russell Crowe is Sid 6.7. He has a I forget her real name, but Penny from Big Bang Theory.
Kaylee Cuoco, she's the wee girl.
Kaylee Cuoco, she's the girl. She's the daughter in that at the end. I love Virtuosity. I love that movie. Oh my God.
Awesome. Yeah. It's like, some of the effects are dated, but who cares? It was like early CG.
Dude, in 95, it was mind blowing in the theater. It worked. The little cube type things.
Yeah.
Oh my God. The guy that got chopped up into the sushi ice, he's like got all like bloodied up in there. I've seen that movie. I don't know how many times. I love it. I love Virtuosity.
I'm trying to look it up, but that was the first movie that I saw with THX or whatever.
Oh, really?
Right?
Ooh.
And
that was right around the re-release of the Star Wars, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. Like we came out, we're like, this is like a new, because THX wasn't just sound, it was also seat placement.
Yes.
It was a whole thing. Like the first seat needs to be X distance from the screen, stadium.
Yeah, they were tuned to the theaters. They sent specialists to theaters that wanted to upgrade to THX because they had to adjust the speakers placement and everything. I remember when all that happened.
We were like destroyed.
Virtuosity. That is
give it a watch. It's on Prime. And when I saw it the other day, I was like, I haven't seen that for a while. But Denzel's such a badass in it because I love when he's in the prison. And then he like beats this guy up and he's like, "Come on, look what I did! Come get me!" And he's just just asking for people to come get him.
Oh man,
he's so cool,
so freaking good, man.
So awesome. That's a great movie.
So sorry, Jake is here. Did you know Judge Dredd had a crossover with Batman?
Oh yes, Andrew, we do. Da da da.
This.
Yeah.
I'll get that framed.
Yeah, is that Simon Beasley? I can't tell.
I couldn't find his name. I think
I'm gonna look it up. I'm gonna look it up.
I feel like they cut the poster right at his name or something.
Oh, probably. Yeah, you could argue that Stallone's outfit is more comic booky looking. Yeah,
it is totally straight from the comic. I mean, so if you pay attention, like it's really hard to see that there's parts in Dredd where they still have the eagle, but it's a patch that does the entire pauldron, but that's the eagle head and wings that they're trying to do that on, because let's face it, that is cumbersome in battle. That doesn't really work that well. Even whenever you watch it in HD, it's plastic. It is so plastic when you watch this movie. But I wouldn't have it any other way. I mean, they went that far to be that true to the comic, and you got to give them props for that, man. I mean, it had to be Stallone going, "I'm not going to cover my face the entire movie." And the studio going, we're not paying for Stallone if you're going to cover his face for the entire movie. So there is some stuff where you're like, I get it. And honestly, if they hadn't got Stallone, they wouldn't have had the budget to make it what it was. You know, that it would have been a lot lower budget. Yeah.
That's a movie thing. We have to, you know what the thing is? We have to live in that world.
Oh, yeah.
And I accepted, even after I knew the helmet never came off and I rewatched the movie 100 times, I was never that angry. I'm like, even as, I don't know how old I was in 95 or whatever the math is, but like, I'm like, yeah, I'm not a dumbass. Okay, I get it. Right. They're not going to actually go ahead and do this. Even when I saw Batman 89, I'm like, Joker dies, F this. Why is Batman all black? Why isn't he black and gray?
Yep.
Right.
Or some blue into it too.
I like blue and gray. Right.
Yeah,
but why
blue
is he black and gray? Because that was sort of the accepted variation of
that was the new version. Yeah.
And Joker killed his parents. This is dumb. So I saw Batman 89 22 times before I stopped counting. Okay. Before I stopped counting after how many times I've seen it. And it's like, I still got problems with it. But even as a little kid, I was in grade 6. I was like, oh, I guess they wanted to make it different for the movie. Okay, ta-da. And I'm like, the villain is always responsible for the hero. That's a thing in movies.
Yeah.
Right. To give them more of like drama at the end. Right. So I'm like, right. I still understood that as a kid. It seems like people have gotten dumber. Like audiences are getting dumber and dumber. They don't understand. It's like, okay, you realize this is also a business, right?
Right.
Like, oh, this movie made $80 million in one day. Yeah, but it cost $200 million to make. So it's trash. It's like, even if it's gonna have, you know what I mean? Like if a movie
Black Adam's a flop. Like Black Adam has a budget of like 200 million, and it has to make at least 400 or 500 million, and it's not.
Yeah,
it might do it with you know the digital
release, which is out now.
They might do that, but it's like, and here's
just barely
the other way to look at. Okay, so fine, the studio got involved, and Stallone put his foot down. They didn't just go in that movie and go, okay, take the helmet off. They fit it into the story as to why the helmet came off. He was arrested for the most part, other than the locker room scene. That's the only time he doesn't
he's on the run for the rest of it. That's a good point.
He does the school teaching. He wouldn't have a helmet on doing that. And the locker room. Once he's had the helmet on the entire time until after he's arrested. Right. He gets sent back. Then once as soon as he walks back into the halls of justice and takes out that guy, he's got a helmet back on, at least for a while, trying to be incognito. So they at least tried to work it back into the story, or at least give us a good reason why he's not wearing the helmet.
Yeah, it makes sense.
It does. Fine. The purists have figured out, and it's easier to do that in a comic. You can draw him with the helmet on because we don't worry about how does he take a shower, how does he do any of these other things. We don't care in the comic. In movie time, hell, we see Hershey's apartment. We see how they live. You know, they talk about what they do after work. It's a whole different dynamic. So I won't ding it for that. And it's basically my first introduction to the character, other than two comics I might have had in a collection.
Yeah. I mean, I did read some of the 2000 AD comics growing up. I'm not a big comic guy, but I remember reading it a lot. But I also read the comics for like Mask. Do you remember the Mask cartoon?
Yeah, Mask.
Yeah. Oh, dude, I love Mask.
Yeah, Mask was awesome. They're supposed to be a movie of that a few years ago, and then they never made it. I think F. Gary Gray was going to make it.
COVID hit, and so it slowed down. They were actually working on the cars. I've got a firecracker roaming around somewhere.
It's I don't even care about this stuff anymore. Like, oh, they might be a movie because it's just going to be a crap.
It's going to be crap anyway. Yeah,
right. I'm on default crap mode. It's like it's
prove me wrong. Yeah, this is now you are guilty until proven innocent.
And that's not how it used to be. If they said anything, like if I went back and said, "There's going to be a Batman versus Superman," and little J-Man would be like, I can't comprehend that.
Yeah, you couldn't wrap your head around.
I couldn't, and then it's like, oh, because it didn't happen. It was just two schmucks.
And I'm guilty of that same too. I mean, we talk, obviously Owen does the website, so he has to stay current on all the newer action movies that come out. In my head, though, I'm like, so many have let me down that I really need like everyone's recommendation before I even give it my time.
That's where Tarantino was right, though, where he said this is the worst era for film. I was like, oh, it is. I mean, like I was looking there because I'm sort of working up for us doing our 2022 the year in action. And I was like, I'm lucky if there's 5 movies I like this year that I've seen. So
I'm literally holding out for a movie that's not out yet. I am putting so many chips on a movie that's not even out based on the production studio and the trailer. And they liked one of my stories I did on Instagram. So I'm closer. I'm going to get that interview. Damn it. I am starting a campaign that every time I share their stuff, I'm putting, we need an interview. Give me someone from the studio.
For the love of God, do it.
Just do it.
Do it. Anything else? Just before we finish up, I watched another movie the other day. It's a new Korean movie called The Killer. It's no relation to the John Woo movie. It's just called The Killer. But it is my favorite action movie of the year after Maverick. It is fantastic. Oh, damn. Any movie. I love a movie that opens in the middle of a fight scene.
Oh, God, yeah.
It just opens with a guy, and then his axe goes flying past him, and he's like, axe. And then he's like in the middle of a fight, and he's just like fucking up all these guys. And the movie just is 90 minutes of that. It's awesome. Really, really good movie.
Is it called The Killer, A Girl Who Deserves to Die?
That sounds kind of like it.
95 minutes, South Korean. That's what also known as The Killer in the Korean version.
Yeah, it's called The Killer. Yeah, so I don't know if she deserves to die. She's not that annoying in it.
But see, that's the recommendations.
That's the English version title.
But that's the recommendations I need now. I need Owen to say, like, this is my second favorite movie of the year. And I'm like, now I will probably go watch it. You know, and yes, I am still guilty of both of these guys now apparently have ganged up on me. I haven't watched Terrifier 2 yet. I will. It's not from I won't. I will, but it's not that high on my list right now.
Yeah. Make it.
I need to make it. I just need to so we can talk about it.
Yeah.
You might throw up, right? We want to see if you throw up.
Yeah, or faint.
I have such a low tolerance for that. My constitution isn't very good. I don't give a shit. I'll watch Brain Dead on repeat. I'll watch that pudding scene over and over again. Slacker. Oh, thanks, Benny. I appreciate it, brother. Come over to the house. Yeah, you're right. It is because it's got clowns. Come over to the house and we'll watch Terrifier 2, man. That's grade school best friend.
Batman creates the Joker with the acid chemicals and kill Bruce Wayne's parent. And Spider-Man 3, the Sandman.
I don't like all that stuff.
Yeah, but Spider-Man 3 is unwatchable anyway.
Yes, but that Sandman though is top notch.
Yeah,
he looks exactly like the comics.
It's love that guy. Ever since I watched Wings,
I just hated how Sam Raimi made every villain of his sympathetic.
Well, it's because he was pissed off at the studio. You still have to take that in consideration. This is his movie. He's like, all right, I'll do exactly what you tell me to.
Yeah, because he wanted the Vulture, didn't he? And then the studio were like, no, we have to do Venom.
Written for Vulture to show up in there, and they had to stop the original Venom production. Venom was in production back then. They stopped it because he's like, fuck it, give me Venom then. He knew that would screw them over. It's like, oh, you guys were working on a Venom. No, I want it in my movie, and you're going to give it to me. And they gave him Venom. And then he threw in fake Hobgoblin. Like no, he doesn't. You can tell.
You can tell.
I like Topher Grace. I kind of liked how he wasn't Eddie Brock, but I liked pre-Venom in that one. I did like Topher Grace's take.
They haven't done Eddie Brock properly yet. Even Tom Hardy's nothing like him.
Not like the comics at all.
Or the 90s animated series. I always liked him.
That was awesome. I love that Eddie Brock in there.
I don't have time to start on Venom right now.
J-Man's got to go, so we're going to wrap it up, and then next week. So we'll be back next week, and we're going to talk about the live-action Conan movie. So we'll do Conan the Barbarian, Conan the Destroyer, and then Conan the remake. And if you want to, you can talk about the TV series, which I've never seen.
I saw it 400 years ago, so I don't remember any of it.
Should we throw in Red Sonja in that too?
We can mention Red Sonja as well because
I think it deserves because it is
the conclusion to his Barbarian trilogy, even though he's not.
That was his out to get out of the
Calidor, which is still an awesome name, by the way.
Yeah.
Yes, but that's how he got out of his contract. I did 3 guys. Later, taters.
Yeah. Right.
All right, so guys, remember, subscribe, like to everybody's channels, blah, 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 use your shit. And we will see you next week. And remember, if you are watching, you are the Action Elite.
And I am.
towards the jury.